And we are live.
We're live.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
And we've got a special one for you tonight.
Lots to get through tonight.
Yeah.
Lots to get through tonight.
Could be a long one.
Could be a long one. Strap in, light up,
Yeah.
fill up your tumbler, get some whiskey in the jarro.
Yeah.
Because we're going to let rip tonight.
It's going to be a long one.
Yeah.
So, first of all, welcome back. What are we smoking tonight?
So, we hunted this stuff down for a long, long time.
Yeah.
This is the holy grail backy for us, which is Jermaine's Rich Dark Flake. And I know we've already had a cast about this before, but just to reiterate for those who didn't see it, Rich Dark Flake is Ronseal, right? It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
It is rich, it is dark, and it is a flake. And my word, it's just outstanding. It's very all dark fruits.
Yeah. Molasses.
Yeah. Treacle.
Yeah. It's a very, very decadent flake. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I'd not come across any for years until I happened to find some in Oxford just before last Christmas. Where did you find
it? Was at Birmingham.
In
John
Birmingham.
Hollingsworth.
Right. And now Mitchell's in Sheffield is stocking it.
Oh, boys.
So
you're getting it in.
It's come home.
It's come home. It's come home finally.
So after all these many long years,
yeah,
the return of the king.
That's it. The broad bottom leaf is making it to the Shire lads. So what we're smoking it in. So for reasons which will be made clear very shortly, we've got a bit of a theme going on tonight. So gone for the Dracula, Peterson Dracula. Yes, for aesthetic, but also for practical reasons, because it's a thinner bowl, but it's a big bowl, big chunk, thick stem, fishtail stem, and it handles the Rich Dark Flake very, very nicely. Rich Dark Flake's not particularly hot.
No.
It takes a couple of relights, so it's quite a cool smoke anyway. So the thinner bowl doesn't impact that at all then.
No.
But also, we've got aesthetic going on tonight. It's kind of a horror vibe.
Exactly.
What about you, man? What you got in the bowl?
It's not going to be any news for me tonight. I've got the blacked out Falcon.
Yeah.
I've got the Dublin ball.
Yeah.
I've got the Burley Flake in there. Same again. I guess you could say I have a obsession. So have we got any news? I think the only news that maybe we can get out, we can say before we get into the subject is that, speaking of Mitchell's, they're going to be having a pipe night at the Green Dragon in Dronfield on the 15th of July.
Yeah.
Now, I saw James yesterday, and apparently there's only 20 places. 8 have gone so far.
Whoa.
So we need to book in. It's 20 quid a ticket. So we're going to get booked in. We're going to be there. And if you're in the area, I would suggest it too. You're going to get a pipe. And there's going to be, James said, like a dozen tins of Wilson's of Sharrow to just like sample. So it should be a fun evening.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah.
Like we were saying last cast, it's right in the middle of aromatic season. It's the right time. So Wilson's do some really nice aromatic. They're also a really local tobacco supplier for us. They're right round the corner, like 12 miles away.
And you know, great snuff.
Yeah.
Great snuff.
Just kind of really like what they're really sort of known for. Certainly what we get involved with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. So, you know, we'll be there, hopefully do a little check-in, put a couple of little community posts on maybe.
Yeah.
So there'll be, keep your eyes peeled, there'll be something on that. And then in terms of tonight then.
Yeah.
So I got a message from you. So both of us are quite, to just kind of set the scene, both of us are sort of film aficionados. We love our horror films, love our Lovecraft and our our body horror and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Big fans of it. Also kind of a fan of, I say alternative cinema, it sounds a bit weird, but I don't mean it like that, but like sort of films like not necessarily just art house, but also like kind of like something a little bit out of the ordinary.
Just off the beaten path.
Off the beat, yeah, a little bit. So when not so very long ago, I went to go and see Markiplier's Iron Lung, and I think that was that did the walking, so that Obsession could do the running. And at the time, he stumped up some of his own cold hard cash to make this film happen for a game, again, kind of a survival horror game in a very different way. It's not a kind of survival horror like a zombie kind of game, but he was obsessed with that game so much. Interesting use of word. That he said, "Well, this needs a film." Now, Markiplier had obviously made all his bones on YouTube,
right?
So this YouTuber pipes up with a bit of cash in his pocket, and in terms of Hollywood money, we're talking about loose change, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
Turned up and just knocked it out of the park. This film was great. I had a great time watching it. And then not so very long later, just a couple of weeks ago, you messaged me to say, "Have you seen Obsession yet?"
Yeah.
And I've said, "No, I haven't. I've heard all the buzz about it. And I like the concept of YouTubers doing films. I like the concept of outsiders." I think that's maybe the better way of describing it, like outside cinema. I like the idea of outsiders getting involved in cinema and coming up with something a little bit new. I think it's got stale and it needs fresh ideas. And you said,
exactly,
"Are we finna go?"
Yeah.
And I said, "We are finna go." Let's do
so
it.
I went with my significant other to see this film, but before that, I went with my girlfriend.
We had a great night. It was so romantic.
I wrote that before. But yeah, and it's also come on the same kind of time as Backrooms,
Yeah.
which was like a long-running internet meme.
Yeah.
It may have been some games made on it, I'm not sure. But again, a YouTuber, and this film, Obsession, directed by Corey Barker, another YouTuber.
Yeah.
So I think definitely there's a shift in the filmmaking sphere, and it's going towards these low budget, but like really talented original directors.
Yeah. And it's funny how it's, again, before we kind of get stuck into it, isn't it funny how it's in the horror environment when
Seems
this
to
comes
be.
first? So remember all the J horrors that kind of came about? It was a different beat. It was a different kind of a feel. You know, it was body horror, and body horror stuff had been done before, especially in the 80s. And we kind of went through all the slashers in the late 80s and early 90s. Then it got to a little bit like it is today it was like IP films, you know, Freddy 20, you know, Freddy, you know, the retirement home years, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? It got a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they ran out of ideas, and then all of a sudden, sort of late 90s, early noughties, you've got like Ju-On, Dark Rain, Dark Water,
Right.
The Eye.
Yeah.
You've got all these films that had come about from Ringu. Yeah.
Not to be confused with Pingu.
Yeah, it's different. Very similar but different. Audition. So you've got all these very, very odd, like Takeshi Miike films. So you've got all these very
Ichi the Killer. Yeah.
You've got all these Japanese style horrors that started to come through. So it's interesting that we've kind of come back a little bit full circle. That horror films have really, I can't remember the last time I watched a really good one at the cinema. Yeah.
And just as another honourable mention before I forget, the Philippou brothers were also YouTubers, and they've recently done Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, which, if I'm not mistaken, are both A24 produced. So, you know, A24 they put out some great horror films, I will say, and they put out some great films in general.
Yeah.
So they kind of were the quirky kind of art house, but they're kind of becoming more mainstream, I would say.
Yeah. They sort of crossed over a little bit, didn't they?
People are. It may have been kind of fringe at one point to be into A24 films, but I feel like now
they're almost a household name, you could say, for now.
Yeah,
by now. But it just struck me as interesting that it was the horror genre that was kind of ready for a refresh, something a little bit different. So Obsession. So Barker, interesting surname for a horror film director.
Yeah. I actually wondered if it was like related.
Same, it's not, but you know, good namesake. For Clive himself. So got a bit of money in his pocket, $700,000. and has put together what is probably going to be described as a film for the ages.
An instant classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's going to be spoken up there with all of those films that I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
And
with a truly iconic new like monster.
Yeah.
That's going to be up there with, all the Freddy Kruegers.
Yeah.
Like Nikki is going to be up there.
So that's the point. And we'll get into that in a little bit later. Who is the monster? Who is the bad guy?
That's what I think we're going to get. That's what we're going to get into
that
in a big way, because the reason, I mean, apart from the fact that we both really enjoyed the film, we thought it was well made, but it has generated a lot of talk on the internet, and I feel that the talk is very one-sided.
Yeah.
And I think we are going to set the record straight tonight. We're going to wade in.
Yeah.
We're going to give the hot take.
We're going to get a hot take.
And we're going to set some things straight. So, yeah. So
we're going to be the 10th man. You've heard of the rule of the 10th man?
Yeah.
10 people in a room, 9 agree. The 10th man has a duty to offer up the alternative.
Yeah. It needs to be quite the
contrary position.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Obsession is the film directed by Curry Barker.
Yeah.
It's centers around a cast of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Michael Johnston playing Bear, who is the male lead, and we've got Indy Navarrete playing the female lead, Nikki.
Yeah.
And then there's their friends and colleagues, Ian and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the core cast.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot more to it than that. And it's a very bare bones kind of narrative story.
Streamlined, isn't it? Yeah.
And Barker had actually said that he had been inspired to do it from the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Monkey Paw episode, which is of course based on the Monkey Paw tale.
Yeah.
So it's a classic be careful what you wish for kind of tale.
And it's got, and again we'll get into that a little bit later, it's definitely got that sort of campfire horror story, ghost story
exactly
feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got the, like we said, Tales from the Crypt kind of feel, Twilight Zone kind of feel.
Yeah.
So I thought what we'd do is, before we get any further, we are going to spoil the story. And it is so it's valid to say that. It's a new film. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to spoil, we're going to spoil it.
Check it later. Yeah. Come back to us.
So, so just to go over like a kind of brief overview of the script, you've got the male lead. It opens where he is practicing his confession of love to Nikki, which is the female lead, and his friend Ian is there telling him that's it's an awful idea to do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
He's like, just kind of tease her, just be a bit more playful,
because he's doing it to a waitress, as it turns out, isn't it? Like a complete stranger.
Yeah.
To see how it lands.
Exactly. Yeah. And like she's like, oh, that's so sweet, but he's like, no, you can't do that. And he tells him to call her Freaky Nikki, which is a name that like her bullies called her in school.
Yeah.
So
is that about promiscuity? Getting freaky?
Could be, and I think there are things that point to that a bit later on. But basically, Bear goes home and his cat has died. Now, his cat has got into these painkillers.
Yes.
And we find that Bear is living in his grandma's house, his grandma has died fairly recently.
Yeah.
Now, on the first watch, I thought, because I went to see it twice. On the first watch, I thought, it's kind of weird that a cat, because he puts the pills back in the medicine cabinet. It's like, how did a cat get those out of there? And like it's kind of weird, but I think the implication is that he's been taking these pills and he's left them open. The cat's got into them.
Yeah.
So, and then he's distraught when the cat dies. We can see he's a lonely guy living in his grandma's house, which he's done nothing to change. He's kind of in this tomb.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's kind of like sad scrolling Nikki's Instagram.
Yeah.
He gets a call from her. It's pub quiz night.
That's right.
And he's like, can't really make it, and he makes some excuses. She says over the phone that she's lost her crystal necklace. And anyway, she convinces him to come to to the pub quiz. On the way to the pub, he stops in a new agey wicker shop to replace the crystal necklace. He has a look at what's on offer, doesn't like it, but
can't make a decision.
Right.
Can't decide.
Indecisive.
Is it that one? Is it another one?
Right.
Don't know. Will she like it? Will she not like it? Don't know.
But what catches his eye is this box of these gag gifts, one wish willows. Inside is a willow branch that you snap and then you make a wish.
Yeah.
And it's granted to you.
And it's just in like the most like unsuspecting looking packaging. It's just like a little Toblerone type box, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just like something that like a kid would make
exactly
with PowerPoint in about half an hour.
Right. So he buys it. The cashier is really kind of sarcastic and aloof, and she kind of hints at some warnings, but he obviously thinks that she's bullshitting. But so anyway, they go to the quiz night. He's kind of trying to shoot his shot, and Ian is kind of getting in the way.
Yeah.
Like, Ian knows that he's intending to do this, but he's like interrupting conversations. Anyway, he ends up taking Nikki home, and there's a bit of kind of flirtatious back and forth in the car. She kind of maybe not hints that she's interested.
It's kind of awkward flirtatiousness, isn't it? It's like neither of them really cross a line. They both sort of stay in their lane, but they're kind of playing around each other a little bit.
Yeah, they're dancing around it, but a little bit too cautiously. Anyway, as he drops her off, he calls her Freaky Nikki, and she reacts badly to it. And then she says to him, "Look, do you like me? Because if you do, say it now." And he pusses out. He says, we're just friends. She says, okay. She walks in like a kind of desperate, frustrated kind of state. He takes out the one wish willow that he'd intended to give to her.
Yeah.
He pulls it out and he says, "I wish Nikki would love me more than anyone in the world," and snaps it. She's instantly on the porch.
She stops right. Yeah. That's right.
Coming back to the car.
Yeah.
Right. They end up spending the night together, not sleeping together, but she spends the night at his place because she's insistent that she be around him. And then, just to speed run through everything, they initially have this like very kind of idyllic relationship, like making pancakes together, playing music, watching movies. It starts to get dark as Bear finds out that she's been lying about some things, and she becomes increasingly obsessive and violent. To the point that she's kind of like kicking off in public.
Solitude avoidant. She won't have him like leave anywhere. She tapes the door up.
Yeah, she does a weird shrine for his recently dead cat.
Yeah.
She feeds him his dead cat.
Yeah, in the sandwiches.
Yeah, in the sandwiches. And it culminates where she kills Sarah, the other female friend in the group, because she becomes jealous because Sarah has a crush on Bear. And in the final scene, because Bear calls the helpline on the box of the One Wish Willow, and he speaks to the helpline guy, who is actually Corey Barker.
Right.
And he basically says, "We can't cancel a wish. We can't alter it. It will end when you die."
He's a bit of a swine with it as well, because so cancelling the wish. Yeah, we can't really do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can send you a form if you want to alter it. So, okay, how do I do that? It's like, we don't really do that either.
Yeah. And so in the final scene, Bear realizes that things have gone too far. He tries to shoot himself, but he pushes out back. He goes back to the painkillers. He takes a load of the painkillers. Then, because he's bought some more One Wish Willows to try and get his friends to offset the wish, Nikki gets hold of it, breaks it. It's implied that she wishes that he would love her as much as she loves him.
Yeah.
He instantly becomes obsessed with her, forgets about that he's just overdosed.
Yeah.
So they have this brief moment of like mutual obsession.
Yeah.
But then he dies.
Yeah.
The wish fades away.
Yeah.
And she's left with dead bodies and chaos.
Yeah.
Carnage.
Doesn't really know 100%. Or does she really know what had kind of gone down?
Yeah. So we're going to get into more specifics, but I just wanted to give a bare bones kind of thing of the plot. So basically, this has generated a lot of heated discussion online, and the main thing is that essentially Bear, the male lead, is this irredeemable, evil, horrible villain,
Yeah.
right? That was just a rapist,
Yeah.
and malevolent from start to finish, right? And basically, this film, I think, it's come. The people that are watching it, they've come in with primed for the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years of like a change in discourse. So now,
well, this is a little bit of like what Hillary Lane was saying about that. They're looking out for like key trigger words, like the way the AI works.
Right.
That if are those words involved, or are those things included? In which case, it's an instant judgment. Okay, it's a misogynist. It's
right.
It's
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So the last
there's no nuance. Right.
No,
it's just a label.
Exactly.
Okay, that's it. In nuance, pal. Into you go.
And that's what we're seeing in the discussion. There is zero nuance.
Yeah.
So I would say in the last 10 to 15, like I remember being 20, so like 22. So we're talking what, like 12 or so years ago. Being introduced to the red pill, learning about the red pill, and reading it as a young man and thinking, "Wow, this is like arcane knowledge," right? So just being brought up in the way that I was, it's like, oh, women are the same as men, and just be yourself, and the right girl will fall in with you. And you get to a certain age, and you realize that just that may have been well-meaning, but it's not accurate, and it's not. So you, as a young man, you learn this knowledge, and you're like, wow, this is like esoteric, arcane lore, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but when I was at that time, it kind of was an underground kind of thing.
Yeah.
Over the last like 15 years or so, that has now become extremely mainstream.
It's just rage bait now.
Yeah, it's degenerated into kind of like rage bait, and you got like the Whatever podcast where you get like a bunch of like carefully curated women, and you get one guy who just kind of bullies them, for an hour or two, and so like people have come in kind of like with that being primed for the last 10, 15 years. Like people will talk, like you see like these kind of like men and women on, like young men and women on Instagram talking about masculine and female energy, leadership,
decisiveness,
right, softening, relaxing into my feminine energy, things like that.
Yeah.
Things that like we never talked about as young, kind of like teenagers and stuff, like feminine energy. Like,
I've got a bottle of cider. We're going down the park.
Right.
Let's go. Who's
Exactly.
coming? Well, I'm coming. Like Becky's coming. Tim's coming. Nobody really cares.
Right. Exactly. And it's become very mainstream, as I say. And there's been, like particularly online, I guess, not so much in the real world, but there's been a lot of animosity between kind of like the male and female camps on these kind of issues. And of course, like romance and dating is just completely gone to the dogs.
Yeah, it's all been so entrenched and polarized.
Yeah,
there's no common ground. There's no room for, like, it's either one camp or the other. There's no room for discourse.
And the other thing that is going to be pertinent to this discussion is the idea of the nice guy. So that is kind of like red pill adjacent territory, but there was a book written on this, which is kind of like the seminal work on this phenomenon, which is called No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. And he's done the podcast rounds for the last few years and stuff. He's good because he came into some popularity because of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, basically, what defines a nice guy is what is called a covert contract.
Yeah.
So what a nice guy TM does is he makes covert contracts. So let's say that a nice guy meets a woman, he's attracted to her, he's interested in her. What he won't do is forthrightly express his attraction and desire. But what he'll do is he'll form this covert contract. If I am nice to her, if I'm a good guy, if I, drive her here and there, if I fix her car, if I
pay her rent.
Right, if I become her like emotional support system, in 1-2 years time, she'll see what a good guy I am, and she'll want to be with me.
Yeah, I'll be the shoulder to cry on when it all goes south, when she's fed up with Tyrone and Chad.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So he's got this script in his head, this contract that has not been discussed with anybody.
Yeah.
So the idea is that he will believe that he's owed a certain amount of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because he's put in this whatever.
Yeah.
So that is going to be pertinent to this discussion as well.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting. I mean, just on the nice guy thing, I remember one of the places that I used to work at. There was a tiny car park. There was never enough parking spaces, and somebody had ended up parking in somebody else's space. One of the lasses at work, and she was a good stick, actually. Really cool girl. And this guy marched up the stairs and started threatening her.
All right.
So like he was going to do this, that, and the other. He was screaming and shouting and getting in the face.
Mm.
And then later, it turns out, so this guy worked for one of the local members of parliament. I won't say which party and I won't say which MP, because it just ain't that kind of podcast.
Mm.
But it will be the one that you're thinking about.
Right.
And the nice party,
Yeah.
right? And lo and behold, so we did some Twitter stalking, and on his Twitter profile was, "I'm genuinely one of the nice guys."
Right.
So every time I ever hear the nice guy theory, I'm like, that's it. That was it in action.
Exactly. Yeah. You typically find that, especially like a guy who will describe himself as a nice guy, there's always like a bubbling rage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the rage of. It's the rage of
entitlement.
He's angry at himself.
Yeah.
Really. Because he's not had the courage to go out for what. So, and that brings us nicely into the discussion of the film. So, a lot of the discussion is how this guy Bear is irredeemably evil. Now, I think you and I would both agree he's probably not a virtuous man.
Yeah.
But is lack of virtue the same as evil? I don't think it's.
No, and it's what kind of virtue does he lack? So we're coming back on. So the first sort of 30, 40 minutes of the film, maybe 20, 30 minutes of the film, let's say, I found him really frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Because he's indecisive and he's weak-minded and a little bit cowardly, in the sense, like emotionally cowardly.
Yeah.
You know, he's not prepared to shoot his shot in case it all fails.
Exactly, he's a coward.
And it's to his detriment.
Exactly.
So the reason why it's frustrating isn't because we're mocking him, because actually, like, he's not such a bad lad. You know, you want to see a lad do well.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Like, you can sniff a bad egg out. He didn't come across as a bad egg. He just came across as a bit of a loner.
Exactly.
Struggling with his feelings, his difficulties. I mean, like, he is traumatized when his cat dies. I mean, like, he is heartbroken. So you see that this guy doesn't handle emotions very easily.
Exactly.
This is not a stoic, right? This is
No.
not a stoic man. Whether you want to describe stoicism as a virtue is another topic for another discussion another time. But he lacks. I think that's the best way I can describe it. That he lacks certain traits that would measurably improve his life and his outcomes.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, he's cowardly,
but it's his detriment.
He
pays for it himself.
Yeah. So early on in the film, as he drops Nikki off, she kind of. It's like I said, they're flirting. It's ambiguous whether she likes him or not. But what she does say is, when I like a guy, nobody knows. Now that is the kind of thing you say if you hint drop it.
Right.
Right.
And Nikki's flawed herself, isn't she? She's got her own things going on.
Exactly, and that's what I want to get into as well. But she lays it out for him. She says, "Look, do you like me? Because if you do, tell me now."
Yeah.
And you know, they could
nearly does.
Yeah, and you could interpret it as she wants to get it out of the way so she can shoot him down and move on.
Yeah.
But I think there's a part of it that wants him to sack up. She wants him to step up and say, "Yeah."
She could have just walked straight out of that car and gone
Exactly.
straight home. I'll give you a kiss. I'll think of you as a brother.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we're such good friends. I can tell you anything.
Exactly.
You're like the brother I never had. You know, all that kind of that friend zoning stuff, right? She could easily have dropped that if she wasn't interested. She didn't.
She didn't. What does he do? He does not. He chickens out. He does not say that he's interested in it. He says that we're good friends.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the inciting incident. Aside from the actual making of the wish.
Friend zones himself.
He friend zoned himself. Yeah. And so we've established he's he's not a forthright guy. He's not courageous, and like you said, he's a lonely guy, and a lot of young men out there are lonely.
Yeah.
Right? It's a real thing. A lot of these young soldiers are struggling. It's tough for them out there. So
Affects your mind.
Yeah.
It affects your ability to make decisions properly.
Yeah.
It clouds your judgment.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
And so I don't think that should be discounted.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to the next thing. Right. So in his frustration, he takes out this gag gift that he got from an Oofy Doofy Wicker show.
Yeah.
Right. And in his frustration, he goes, I wish Nikki would love me more than anybody else. And he snaps it. Now, there's no way that you can say that he expected that to work.
No.
Like, he's just simply not responsible for that.
Yeah.
He kind of like said a prayer in frustration.
Yeah.
And he did the thing, he did the gag gift. It happened to work. There was no indication that was anything more than a gag gift.
Yeah, that's it. Right. To him, it was a scream into the ether.
Right, exactly.
But in reality, it was a ritual.
Right. Now, there's this whole thing where people are like, oh, he wished to take away her autonomy. He wished to overwrite her and fashion a new thing in the image that he wanted. But like, no, he didn't. Are you telling me that you've not been like a young person and like you've been interested in someone romantically? Oh, I just wish that they would feel about me.
Yeah.
Like, you telling me you've never said that, you never thought that. Just because he expressed it verbally and snapped the stick.
Yeah.
That he was to expect that was going to be the case.
I think the only thing that you could level at him is what kind of love, because coming back to orthodoxy, love takes form in many different ways.
Yeah.
And it's quite sort of well thought out, and it's quite logical and structural in orthodoxy.
Yeah.
That there are there is a stratification of love. What kind of love is he really after? Does he really know?
Exactly. No.
But to offer the other side, is he really thinking that at that time?
He's not thinking about that.
Of course not.
But he's not thinking about agape.
Right.
He probably is in eros.
Eros, yeah.
He's thinking in eros.
Yeah.
And this probably brings us on to Bear's other mistake. He was pedestalizing this girl. He was, to get a little bit Jungian, he was projecting onto her. He had this image in his mind that he was projecting onto her.
Yeah.
And he was in love with that image more so than he was with Nikki. So when we're watching this film, everything really was seen through Bear's mind, his perception. So we're seeing Nikki through his eyes. Pre-wish Nikki. So first of all, what struck me is that when they leave the bar after the pub quiz, there's a homeless guy by the door.
Yeah.
She says, has anybody got any money?
Yeah.
Doesn't say what it's for.
Yeah.
Sarah takes out a 20. She snatches a 20, says, I'll pay you back, gives it to the homeless guy.
Yeah.
Now, Bear's watching, like, doe-eyed, like, oh, what a sweet girl. But she just took her friend's money to give to a homeless guy so she could get the feel goods.
Yeah. Never said, oh, there's a homeless guy there, maybe we should get him a bit of something. Like, just
let me take your money so I can get the feel goods.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's watching on, like, all in adoration because what a sweet manic pixie dream girl she is.
No. And that's kind of the story in a microcosm. Because Sarah's the real girl, the real love interest, as it happens later.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also kind of speaks a little bit to one of Nikki's faults, in that, her character faults is that she's impulsive and reckless.
Right.
And this is all implied. There is nothing really in the story that sort of demonstrates this very clearly. It's all sort of anecdotal and conversational, and between stuff that goes on, the conversations between Ian and Bear. Which again, Ian is an unreliable narrator in this story.
Yes, exactly, and there's reasons for that. Now, next thing that we find out about Nikki, quite shortly after the homeless guy situation, doesn't like her dad. Now, there could be genuine reasons why someone might not like their dad, but generally speaking, it's what the kids call a red flag.
Right.
If a girl does not have a daddy or have a good relationship with the daddy, because the daddy is the model. He's going to be what she models her romantic partners on. He's going to teach her how a woman is loved, how a woman is respected and treated. And if things are wrong with the father, even when it's no fault of the child,
Yeah.
it doesn't bode well.
No,
for
it sets a bad tone.
Yeah.
Like you're sowing bad seeds.
Yeah.
And also, kind of again to sort of bring it to the Christian tradition. Maybe not quite so much in Orthodoxy, but certainly in the Western Church, you've got this this sort of lowercase tradition of the dad giving the bride away.
Yes, exactly.
That in essence, the father of the bride is handing over his responsibility of his daughter to her husband.
Yeah.
To at that point, the fiance to say, well, look, this is now up to you to take over from me the loving aspect of this relationship.
You're going to love her. You're going to provide for her. You're going to take care of her now.
Right. Unconditionally is how it's supposed to be.
That is how it's.
So if they're not getting unconditional love from a dad, like say for whatever reason, through whoever's fault, it's not going to set up. There is no foundation. There's no adequate foundation for that marriage to be built or relationship to be built upon.
Exactly. And later, we find out from Sarah that Nikki has in fact been, having casual relations with Ian.
Yeah. Who's been telling Bear
Who's been
all
coaching.
along, saying, "Oh, don't go near it. Don't go near it." Like, "Oh, don't do it at the quiz night.
Don't do it
ruin
there.
the vibe."
Yeah. Make sure you call her this name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she wasn't really the pure kind of, ethereal dream girl that they thought that she was.
And neither was Ian, the solid, dependable, reliable mate that he knew he could rely
on. And it kind of puts questions into place like, is Ian kind of, C blocking there? Is he trying to get in the way there?
Yeah.
Was Nikki the one that kind of ended things and he's kind of chasing after her? And,
yeah.
But one thing that struck me is that the dynamics of the group when they're together, Nikki doesn't appear to be like jilted or like it all seems very like on the level. Now, if a girl, I think if a woman can have that level of detachment, that kind of says something about how she's going to bond with the next guy or how she's not going to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sort of pair bonding. And again, come back to it like because of Bear's. Really, in a way, it's his obsession to start with. It's his obsession with Nikki.
It is.
Is how this plays out. And really what he's asking for when he snaps the stick is, I want Nikki to love me the same way that I love her.
Yeah.
Or the way that he thinks he loves her.
Yeah.
And it clouds his judgment, and there's a veil over his eyes that he can't see the wood for the trees, that it's actually Sarah is the one that's all along carried a bit of a torch for him. She's always the kind of the quiet one. She's quite kind of a bit of a sweet chick as well, but she's very quiet, and she's like she's sort of second fiddle a little bit to Nikki in the female, because we've got 2 and 2, but at no point does there ever feel like there's parity between Nikki and Sarah.
No.
Whenever Sarah and Nikki are around, it's the Nikki show. Yeah,
exactly. And so I think that was his other mistake, that he idolized an image that he had in his mind rather than what was actually there.
Yeah. So before we go on, man, we've got M. Edgar on as well tonight. So good to see you so soon, guys. Spoiling us. Yeah, we couldn't wait to get this one out, could we?
Yeah, we've been itching really to do this one.
Yeah. So this is a special.
So
good to have you with us. Let us know what you're smoking. Let us know what you're drinking. And your thoughts as well.
Yeah, if you've seen it,
yeah.
So but I don't think we can lay any blame at his feet for making that wish. There was no way that he could have known that it would go off like that. Now, the relationship starts to build from there, and he's still in two minds whether, because he like Googles, does the one wish will actually work? And he's getting mixed things on like
Reddit. Yeah.
So, but still, he's got no real reason.
No, he hasn't. But then again, that again is like a little window into his inability to make a decision. He can't look at those sources and think, well, who's talking crap here?
Yeah.
Everybody, it's just one says yes, one says no. Like, he's got no idea.
He can't sort the.
No, he can't.
And And so yeah, the relationship starts to develop. Now the first cracks appear when they're at a diner together.
Yeah.
And he gets a phone call from Ian saying that because the reason that Nikki gives for wanting to stay with Bear on the first night after the wish is that the dad is dying.
That's right. Yeah.
And she just can't be in the house.
Yeah.
She needs to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now Ian tells him that actually it turns out her dad's fine, dad's healthy.
Yeah.
And on that day that you were off recently, Nikki was talking to Sarah, and Nikki said that she only ever saw you as a little brother figure, and now you're dating. What's going on with that?
Yeah.
And then he goes back to the table and he says, is your dad actually have cancer?
Yeah.
And then there's the no.
Yeah. And it's such odd. Indian average absolutely nails the performance by the but
performance incredible.
So good. These little micro expressions that sort of build across her face, but also even before this, there's a little bit of foreshadowing and a little bit of sort of breadcrumbing that goes along. Breadcrumbing is an intentional phrase, given that Hansel and Gretel comes through a little bit later. But like, just like a movements are weird. Occasionally, it doesn't look like her. It's odd movements. It's odd behaviour.
And her face is super expressive.
The gestures are wrong.
Yeah.
And her facial, like so, her expressions look wrong. And not just necessarily like evil or twisted or demonic or anything like that. Sometimes it's just incongruous. It doesn't fit. It's not. It's unempathetic to the context that she's in. She'll have a weird smile on. Or she'll hold a smile for too long.
Yeah.
Or she'll stare at you for too long. You know, so when we came out of the film, we were on about eye contact. It's like, well, like it's weird to just kind of like stare somebody out. It's odd.
Yeah.
It's unnatural. It doesn't feel like
even between friends, there's like a certain convention of like eye contact that you have to follow.
So again, like Indian Averett absolutely nails those little quirks, like the way that she walks. Sometimes she'll like do this like little backward walk sometimes, or she'll kind of jerk a little bit, and it won't be like a huge thing, just a tiny sort of micro expression, but it all just paints this picture that something's off with her.
Yeah. Now after the diner scene, they go home and they have intimate relations.
Yeah.
Now this is the scene that a lot of people are pointing out, because when you watch that scene, you can see that her face is blank.
Yeah.
But she's making all the right sounds, like to suggest that she's having a good time. But the face is blank and even a little bit sorrowful. So as we find out later, we find out that when Bear made the wish, basically the magic of the wish kind of downloaded a new form of Nikki, whose sole trait basically is that she's obsessed with Bear, and the authentic Nikki has been kind of banished to a shadow realm. So how do we find this out? Because we see that when she's when they're having relations in bed, that her face is kind of like blank.
Yeah.
We find out that
like it doesn't satisfy.
No,
it doesn't satisfy the obsession with it.
Right. We find that she packs him lunch, which turns out to be his cat, and she puts these Polaroids in there. It's a picture of him, and it says you. And there's a picture of her, and it says not me.
Yeah.
Now there's a scene at a party later where she reads the Hansel and Gretel thing, which we'll get into later.
Because she's a bit of a sort of a writer.
She's a writer,
amateur writer.
She's quitting her job to focus on the writing, and she keeps having these moments like where she snaps out and she goes, "What the fuck? What's going on?"
Yeah.
Like when they first kiss. Oh, what? And then there's a little bit of a jump scare. So, and then we find out when he calls the helpline and he speaks to Corey Barker on the phone, and he's trying to change or cancel his wish.
Customer service.
Yeah. He's like, "Do you want to speak to Nikki?" And then we can hear her screaming.
Yes. Yeah.
So the implication is that the real Nikki has kind of been banished to hell or some other kind of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But she appears to break through occasionally.
Yeah. She's still in there.
Yeah. Now, when I saw it the first time, I said to myself, "This is a possession movie." And then in the meantime, I've done some like engagement with like the interviews and whatnot. And you said she's possessed, right? And I was like a real obnoxious prick, and I was like, "No." Corey Barker says that it's not possession. but it's just purely like the magic of the work she's created.
Yeah.
But like, I think like my first intuition, your first intuition, particularly as like Christians, is like, yeah, it's a possession movie, because there are these two personalities. There's the personality that is the now the dominant wish Nikki, and there's also the authentic real Nikki that are battling. And I think, you know, there's one scene where Nikki has now quit her job.
Yeah.
Barry's going to work, and we see that when he goes, she just stands in one place and waits for him.
Yeah.
Now, when we see that, she immediately wets herself.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is...
She's got this smile. She's
Yeah.
got this smile, and her eyes are glazed. The reason why I came up with possession was that, well, specifically in Chinese medicine, they say, possessions, it's in the eyes. So the eyes never lie, Chico, right? But for Chinese medicine, they say that possession is in the eyes. And possession is something that, again, particularly Chinese medicine, they said about like drug addiction. So when the real person's in there,
right,
but there's somebody else who's fighting this, who is just completely servicing a passion, or in this instance, a chemical dependency, and that the eyes are just completely glazed.
Yeah.
And when she first knocks on the door and opens the door, and Bear opens the door, her eyes, the lighting in the film is absolutely out of this world.
Yeah.
It's so cleverly done, because you don't really see her expression, but you know she's sort of smiling, but you know it's odd. It's an odd smile. It's a staring, glassy eyes.
It's off.
It's very off.
And I don't, but like to add to the possession theme, when she does wet herself and the camera kind of pans down and you see the pee dribbling down her leg into the rug, that reminded me instantly of The Exorcist.
Yeah. I got that too.
So for me, really, yeah, it is a possession film. But like all of this to say, a lot of the condemnation of Bear is coming from this thing that he's fully aware that the real Nikki has been overwritten. She's trapped in this hell realm.
Yeah.
And he's actually kind of abusing her physical body, and he's taking advantage of...
Which is kind of wild, because Ian also says you're sort of taking advantage of her.
Exactly.
But Ian is an unreliable narrator and only really wants to get in Nikki's pants. He's not really interested that Bear's taking advantage. In essence, Ian's already been doing it. He's already been taking advantage of her if you believe what he said.
Exactly.
But also that Bear is not having a good time here, man. He realizes this is not what he wanted.
No. And when he's on that conversation with the helpline, Corey says to him, he says, "Is she really in love with me?" And he says, "Just because you chose this for her doesn't mean it's not real."
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got a moral obligation to be there for her.
Right.
And to Bear's credit, he sticks around.
He does.
Right?
He does.
And we don't see any relation scenes again. So
no, we don't.
If we're gonna say that he's continuing to like abuse her physically, like, you know, in that manner, well, that's speculation. We haven't seen that.
We haven't.
We've seen one instance where his face was in the pillow. He didn't see her face in this blank state.
Yeah.
How was he to know? At that point, he was fully under the impression that she had this change of heart.
Yeah.
And there was no magic involved in it at that point.
Yeah.
But what we do see from him is that he does stick around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And basically, it comes after that conversation. It comes down to he's going to kill Nikki. He's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Or he's going to do neither of those things. And now, listen, are you going to kill another human being? No. You're going to kill yourself? No, you're not going to do that. So what are you going to do? You're going to try and manage the situation as best as possible, which is what he appears to do.
He tries. Yeah.
So what was I going to say?
Because even when even when that stuff's kicking off, when she's vommed and evacuated all over the carpet, and I've just got like Big Lebowski vibes, like that rug really tied the room together. That she he doesn't like coming screaming and shouting at her.
I'm listening, man.
He doesn't come screaming and shouting at her. He's not like kicking off and saying like, oh, what the hell do you think you're doing? Like, you're crazy. Get out of my house. Doesn't say any of that stuff. What he's actually he ends up saying stuff like, oh, what have I told you? Oh, don't worry about. Look, let's get you cleaned up. Let's go and get you in the bath. Let's clean you up. Let's clean the room up.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We'll tidy it up. But look, you can't be doing this kind of stuff. He's talking to her almost like a patient, almost like you would if it was his spouse who was suffering like extreme mental health conditions.
Yeah, and there's a scene with
there's an element of care to it.
Yeah,
is what I was getting at.
Exactly, yeah, and there's a scene with Ian's having a party, and he doesn't clue Bear into it because he knows that Bear's going to bring Nikki. If he does, he doesn't want Nikki to be there.
Yeah.
Bear catches wind, and he tells Nikki that he's going to go to this party, and she kicks up a fuss about it immediately, and he ends up taking it. And so it appears to me that he's been thrust into a situation that he really didn't choose.
Yeah.
And he's really trying.
He's trapped. He's as trapped in his way as Nikki is in her way.
He's a victim in the situation. Now, it's not to say, we caveat at the start, that Nikki is not a victim. She clearly is. She's been the victim of the circumstances where she's been forced into a situation that she had no control over. But similarly, Bear also has been as well.
This was not Bear sat in that car reading the Necronomicon, trying to read a spell on how to get Nikki to be infatuated with him. There was no. It comes down to, I think, for me, like a matter of agency. There was no. It didn't look just from my perspective. It didn't appear to me that there was malice aforethought.
No.
With the way that Bear acted, he was desperate for Nikki to love him.
Yeah.
But love him, not be obsessed with him. He said, "I want Nikki to love me as much as he said, I want Nikki to love me more than anyone else in the world."
Yeah. Which, on reflection, is a little bit of a goofy thing to say, but he said it in frustration.
Would you want the same thing for your wife? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Would I want my wife to love me more than anybody else in the world? Kids, maybe. So maybe not quite.
Yeah.
But it might be the kind of thing I was saying, I want my wife to love me as much as I love her. Maybe. But it would certainly be the kind of thing that you can't really condemn a guy for saying.
No.
If he was wanting a relationship, but it was what kind of relationship he wanted. But none of that was going through his mind at the time that those words came out of his mouth, and it was almost like, well, now it's a contract.
Yeah.
Now, and also it's been abdicated. So this ability to love Nikki, if you imagine like an invisible wall between them both, this invisible wall being sort of Nikki's sort of flirtatious but not really behaviour with him, and Bear's infatuation with her, which is really what it is. Bear's infatuation with her, but inability to get over his shyness, his awkwardness, his indecisiveness, cowardice, if you wanted to be really harsh about it. The minute that gets snapped, the wall just comes down. But it's not the relationship that either of them were really wanting.
No. And to that point, so what the director said is that the One Wish Willow isn't cursed. It gives you exactly what you asked for. Ian. So Bear gives Ian a One Wish Willow, and is desperate to get him to wish to undo his wish. But he doesn't take it seriously. Says, "I wish for $1 billion." Snaps it and
just rains money.
Rains money. Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, Ian got exactly what he asked for."
Yeah.
Bear got exactly. But did Bear get exactly what he asked for?
I don't think he did. No, he didn't. But also, when you think of some of those other monkey's paw stories, the guy that might wish for the monkey's paw, I want to be the richest guy in the world. But he's got all this money, but you might have to kill somebody to keep it.
Right.
You might become obsessed with it. It's like the dragon gold in The Hobbit. It's cursed. There's a curse behind it. We never really see what that money does, or it might, Ian might get all that money and turn into an arsehole, or his arseholeness gets revealed.
Yeah.
Right.
Or someone comes for the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are, in a bit like, you ever watch Shallow Grave?
No.
That was kind of Irving Welsh, not Irving Welsh, sorry, Danny Boyle, the film that he did for Train Spotting. So they find like a load of money, and somebody comes. It turns out like there's a dead body.
Right.
No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men is like an even better example, right? There are consequences to Ian's wish that we don't see because he gets offed
pretty soon after,
pretty quick after.
Yeah.
So we don't get the benefit of knowing, because everything after the minute Nikki and Bear get together, they're like Ozzy and Harriet. I mean, they're loved up.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many times you've seen like your mate was like,
yeah, and then you never see him again.
Never see him again. Like, I can't get all the such and such. Like, it's like, oh, he's not one of the lads anymore, right? Oh, he's loved up, right? So they're really into each other. He's really into her, and it's only when things like later takes probably, it's implied that it's a few weeks, maybe, or at least, very least, a few days, a couple of weeks, where like the infatuation wears off. It's able to wear off for Bear, but it isn't able to wear off for Nikki.
No.
So had we had the benefit of seeing what had gone on with Ian, I'm fairly comfortable with projecting a bit further ahead and saying bad things would have happened to Ian for that.
Something awful would have come of that. Yeah. $1 billion in cash.
Yeah, for like no strings attached. Like, of course, the strings attached. Like something's going to happen. There are consequences to actions, and really, that was probably one of the things that when we came out of the cinema, I said, "Oh, this is it's a film about possession, but it's also a film about responsibility. And like we make our choices, we take our actions, we shoot our shot, and then we have to deal with whatever the consequences of those actions are. We have to deal with what we've done." And as you said, man, like to his credit, he tries.
Yeah.
He realizes that it's not working and that it's actually completely unmanageable. In reality, it's not workable. She can't work a job. He can't really work a job. He can't leave the house for fear of what she might do. She doesn't want to leave the house, and she doesn't want him to leave the house either. This is an unmanageable situation.
Yeah. And like to that point, there's another scene in the film that a lot of people are citing as like, he's irredeemable, he's evil. There's a scene where Sarah calls Bear out at 3 a.m. to come and meet her somewhere, which, by the way, she's just seen Nikki at a party kick up a massive fuss, and then she's asking her man to meet her at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Mistake. But anyway.
Actions and consequences?
Yeah. Bear kind of sneaks out of bed at 3 a.m. to go meet Sarah, and Nikki's like, Bear. He's like, she's asleep. This is the real Nikki. She's like, kill me. Just kill me, please. And he says, is being with me really that bad?
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of a shitty thing to say in that situation, because by now he's clued in that Nikki is trapped in some like a hell realm. He's not dealing with the real Nikki.
Yeah.
But what should he have killed her? Should he have gone over and killed her?
Like, is he cheating for leaving the house, going with another bird? And like, if I had a message from another chick at 3 a.m, I want to come and see you. Like, not right now, right? So, but it's not as clear as he's irredeemable. He's clearly this guy's at his wit's end. Like he's not thinking straight.
And again, it goes down to choice number one. Okay, go over and smother her with a pillow, which no one watching this outside of like, a psychopath is going to do. 2, kill yourself. Again, no one's going to do that. Or 3, try and find just some way. Like,
because he loves her. I mean, you're not going to kill somebody that you love. In his weird sort of wacky way, he still loves her. You're not going to kill somebody that you love.
And it's easy to watch and sit there and say like, well, you should have killed him. You wouldn't have killed yourself. You wouldn't.
No.
So
this is somebody who couldn't shoot his shot over even like asking her out, asking her for a cup of coffee, asking to go for some dinner somewhere.
Exactly. We want him to go and take a life.
It's just either his life or somebody else's. It's completely unrealistic. It's never going to happen. His character would not allow him to do that.
No, he simply wouldn't have done
it. So it's unreasonable to sort of level that at him, I think. But also like this sort of a general lack of support when you think about it, they're very isolated. They're isolated, but it's Nikki that's the sort of the instigator for that isolation. It's that there's, or that bit of Nikki, like the bad bit of Nikki, that is instigating that isolation. When you look at sort of cases of DV, right, where you've got like love bombing, and then there's like the actions, and then afterwards there's like guilt, and but then there's like, it goes back to the love bombing. It's like it's cyclical. It becomes, when you hear people who've treated this kind of stuff and who've dealt with this kind of stuff, it becomes routine.
Right.
They're locked into this toxic
cycle,
relationship. Yeah. And so I come back to it that Bear is as much a victim of that isolation as Nikki, perhaps even more so, in the sense that it's Nikki that's instigated that isolation.
Yeah.
That's not something that Bear wanted.
And again, it is the demon Nikki.
Yeah.
But like, when you kind of look again at that little friendship, because the film is like centered around those four people. It's focused on Bear and Nikki, but they are there too, Ian and Sarah, and like it's just a toxic soup.
Yeah.
Like Bear is this kind of like cowardly, kind of dweeby, kind of weaselly dude who he's kind of, he's got this weird thing going on with Nikki where he can't confess.
Yeah.
He can't, like shoot his shot, and everything's. You've got Ian, who's actually, sleeping with this girl that he knows his best friend's into.
Yeah.
And he's trying to steer him in a destructive direction.
He is, and so Ian is as much of a bad guy in this, I think, as almost as much as, if you're going to level that at Bear, I think Ian's got to take some responsibility for this as well, in the sense that the way that he is kind of manipulative a little bit. He's trying to steer Bear's train of thought, and the way that he does it is quite Machiavellian.
Yeah.
He's playing him a little bit, and there are, again, like the consequences to the actions are that, well, they all get whacked.
Yeah.
In the end. And just as an aside, another thing that struck me whilst we were watching the film, and I've not actually mentioned it to you before yet. So I went through a big phase of like being mad on true crime stuff. I used to watch JCS a lot, Jim Can't Swim.
Okay.
And he did a story on, so if you think this stuff never really happens, well, you need to check out the story of Ezra McCandless.
All right.
Who, that was this weird relationship. I think there were 4 of them as well to start with, but certainly 3. These 2 guys, and Ezra, who changed her name like a few times, right? So she got.
So Ezra's a woman.
Ezra's a woman.
Right.
She got all sorts of issues going on, and that she was sleeping with one guy, but really wanting the other, and they were having like their own casual thing behind Chris, I think his name was, behind his back, and she ended up whacking him.
Right.
And then when it goes to court, the guy walks through the door, and the look on her face, it's like, even when they're in court, she's in the dock and she sees the guy walking in to give evidence. She's like just mesmerized. She's completely infatuated.
Really,
it's well worth a watch, especially if you've seen the film. Take a look at the particulars of the case.
Yeah, I have to look into that,
because there's. I mean, obviously, it's fluffed up for artistic reasons to make a really good, impactful horror story film. But there's a kernel of truth in there. This stuff does happen.
Oh yeah.
These sort of toxic relationships, and again, this sort of toxic soup of emotions and personalities that don't really mix very well, and that ends up in somebody getting off.
Yeah, and like in the film, it's also isolated because there's a very limited amount of like sets. It's like his house and work.
Yeah,
and they're all in like and the pub maybe, and they're kind of like just sloshing around in this kind of like toxic soup. And so it appears to be like some kind of small town. It appears to be winter because a lot of the scenes are at night.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, at like 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
and it's pitch black.
Yeah.
I got that.
and
they work at a music store as well, which is kind of wild because that was my first job.
Yeah,
and weirdly, wild stuff and wild people just seem to be attracted. They certainly used to be when I worked. They were like weirdly attracted to music shops. It was kind of wacky. Yeah.
So something I wanted to move on to is, so like when I went to see it for the first time, I was with my girlfriend and there were a lot of couples in there. And when we went, there were also a lot of couples. And so there's a few scenes in there when Nikki is acting wild that really struck me as there's got to be a lot of men in this audience that are looking at their girlfriends and thinking, I can relate to this, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not saying that men don't do bad and awful and destructive things in relationships, because they do, but there's a particular kind of very scary dynamic that came through in that film, in Nikki's actions, that I think a lot of men will relate to. Now, the one, we get the first hint of it in the diner scene that we've described, when Bae calls her out on an inconsistency.
Yeah.
And rather than dealing with the inconsistency, she starts to make a scene and says, I thought we were having a good time.
Yeah.
You know? But the one where it really dials up is where he wakes up at like 3 something a.m. and she's not in bed. And he's looking out in the darkness of the room, and your eye is drawn to like the vanity table thing in the mirror. But in the right corner where it's darkened, you can just see the outline of Nikki. She's saying like, I'm watching you sleep. I don't like my dreams, presumably because when she's dreaming, the real
comes
Nikki
through.
And she's like, you know, I'm scared that you don't love me as much as I love you. And she's like sobbing. And you know, and when I first saw that, there's like, you can just barely see her face. And I was like, there's something off about that face. Is it just the shadow? Anyway, it turns out that she had some kind of makeup on, and you can see pictures of it. If you look for them, but that scene was harrowing.
And the way that Indy Navarrete uses a voice for that, because I don't think there's any sort of post-production effects. I mean, there may well be. They may have done, but only very subtle. You know, sound is my love and my sort of first sort of industry. But how she uses the little girl voice,
right?
So, and because I've got girls myself as a dad. You've got girls yourself as a dad. And you see it. I see it with parents. I see it with other adults. I work with other women. I work with other, and it does come through, even with adults, especially with adults. And you think like, oh, that's kind of a weird way of behaving. There used to be a comedy show called The Fast Show,
right? And
there was one character, that Arabella Ware. It was brilliant. I used to love some of her characters. They were really funny. Which is kind of unusual, but which was really funny. One of them was she's different around men,
right?
And she said she goes to the doctors, and she's kicking off with the receptionist saying, "I've got this, that, and the other. Like, how dare you? Like, I've got major issues, and I demand to see. It's my right to get a scan. It's my right to do this, that, and the other. I demand my women's healthcare." She turns up to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Now there's nothing wrong with you." He's like, "No." So, why do you see my body hurts? So it just turns on the little girl voice, and I hear it loads, especially with my eldest. Like, if there's stuff that's going on, like she's growing up, she's kind of just about to sort of hit the big P word, and you can kind of see all these hormones raging through her. But then every so often, she'll just revert to like little girl. Like, there'll be a little girl voice. I really want it. You know, and the way that Indy Navarrete plays on that, and that was probably one of the best examples that you mentioned just then. You don't love me the way I'm worried about the way that you feel about me. Like, it just nailed it. I related with that so much.
And you know, there's a scene where they're at the party and they're playing like a Jenga drinking game where you pull out a block and there's a little bit of a dare on it or something. And Bae pulls one, and it's kiss the person to your left. Now Sarah is to his left and Nikki's opposite him. And the camera goes to her when he reads it out, and she's doing
Yeah.
like the lip out.
Yeah.
And days later, when I was with my daughter, I saw her pull that the exact face.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
absolutely nailed it.
She really did. But the point being that I think like every guy that's lived a little bit and maybe been around the block a time or two, they've had this situation where they're having some kind of argument or like heated verbal discussion with their girlfriend, wife, whatever, and it becomes detached from logic, reason, and it's purely emotionally driven.
Emotion.
And everything you say seems to add petrol to the fire. And the rules break down.
And if you don't say anything, that becomes a trigger as well.
Exactly. And
aren't you talking to me now?
and the rules break down, and it's kind of Lovecraftian in a certain sense. Like you're in some kind of area where the geometry is non-Euclidean, and things aren't making sense. And I think it's a lot of times the horror genre kind of works by rules, and the Scream franchise was kind of based on that.
Yeah.
Like
it was like riffed on it, didn't they?
Exactly. Like we know how a vampire operates.
Yeah.
We know that it can't travel in sunlight, or sometimes it dies in sunlight. It cannot look upon a crucifix.
Yeah.
Holy water hurts it.
Yeah.
It needs to be staked or beheaded or burned. So a lot of the time horror operates by certain rules.
Yeah.
But this was just it's a confrontation with pure chaos.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Where kind of like meaning and logic breaks down.
That's a great take.
And
very Lovecraftian.
Yeah. And that was what was so horrifying, particularly about that bedroom scene.
Yeah, that he's in a completely alien, hostile environment, and you've got no idea how you're going to get out.
Exactly. He's woken up at 3 a.m. He's drowsy. He's sleepy.
Yeah.
And he's immediately thrust into this very alien, very scary situation.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just,
So, which kind of leads us on to who is the bad guy? Who is the monster that we're dealing with here? Who is it? This is very unusual for a horror film. You got a good guy, you got a monster, you got a I love The Thing again, like very, very Lovecraftian. You've got this thing, this malevolent thing, can assume different shapes, can assume different forms, but they're trying to work out, and there are tells in which this thing behaves. But this didn't really feel like that.
No,
this was a horror film, unlike most I've ever really watched, in the sense that like you've got The Grudge, you've got like The Ring, you've got like there's a particular character, it assumes a particular form and assumes a particular identity, but it wasn't immediately clear. The horror in this aspect was kind of the situation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you may be tempted to say that the villain is the Wish Nikki, but for me, it would be like if a bear ate somebody. Like you could be angry, you could be sad, you could be distraught, but the fact is you couldn't ascribe evil to the bear.
Yeah.
Because the bear isn't acting out of malice. The bear is acting out of its nature.
Yeah.
In the same way that this Wish Nikki is just acting out of its nature.
Yeah.
Like it's just this entity that
is doing what it does.
Its sole defining trait is that it's obsessed with bear to the point of madness.
Yeah.
Nikki is the real Nikki is unquestionably a victim.
Yeah.
No one's saying otherwise, but I would also argue that Bear is a victim.
He is. Yeah, he is. Certainly a victim of the relationship.
Yeah. And again, not a virtuous guy. Probably not a guy that I would want to hang out with.
Yeah.
But a villain.
Note to self: don't snap any willows.
Right. But a villain, an evil guy. I don't think so.
That's a stretch for me.
Yeah,
that's a stretch for me. I think it's more nuanced than that. There's like this kind of unseen if you want to kind of personify it, this unseen entity that feeds and is fed by each of these characters to some extent.
Yeah.
Could you argue even that Sarah, who's kind of the most virtuous of the four, she doesn't shoot her shot either.
Right.
She doesn't really push herself forward. She never got kind of tapped Bear on the shoulder and say, "Listen, let's let these two get out and we'll go and get a drink somewhere." Or like our engineer, something like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the bar and go and get some drinks. Will you come and give me a hand?" Or like, "Oh, I'm going to be going," because she's got a placement at a university.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, do you want to come round and test me on some stuff?" Or like, there's nothing with that either. So this lack of virtue, to a greater or lesser extent, with all four of them, feed into this central, unseen entity that only really gets activated when the stick gets snapped.
Yeah.
That switches this thing on. It manifests itself in Nikki, but it requires, to some extent, at least two of them, but really all four of them.
Exactly.
It requires their input to make this thing behave.
And I think the other thing about Sarah that can fly under the radar a little bit is that she's kind of a shit talker. You know, she's drip feeding information like to Ian to get to Bear.
Yeah.
Sometimes directly to Bear. And again, like I said, demanding that Bear show up at 3 a.m. Otherwise, she will come round.
Could have told him at work.
Right.
Could have told him at any time.
Yeah. So no one here has got truly clean hands. Right. Really.
Right. Very unusual for a horror film.
Exactly.
Very unusual. And even to some extent, like when they think like, "Oh, is there some real dark sort of magic?" And like clearly there is some dark magic stuff going on around that. And again, so from a Christian perspective, would you describe that as lust? It's a passion.
Yeah.
So it kind of has its own, passions have their own agency.
Yeah.
They manifest themselves in ways, and again, they can be sort of personified as well in Orthodoxy specifically.
Yeah.
Demonic activity.
And they kind of demand supplication.
Right.
They demand,
and it needs to be fed.
Exactly.
It needs to be fed to have agency and to have power over people. You need to accept it in sometimes. You need to accept it. So breaking of the stick invites this thing in.
Yeah. Well, the thing about in like the Orthodox understanding is that even Eros itself isn't inherently bad.
No.
But it must be subsumed into agape.
Right.
It has to take the correct place. So like if like for you to feel that kind of attraction and that like that not lust but that kind of like like you see your wife and you're like, dang, that's wholesome and that's pure because it's subsumed in the agape and the philia of the marriage covenant.
So that's a great point, and it just tweaked something with me that, to bring it back to scripture a little bit, Christ says to Peter, "Do you love me?" And he says, "Yes, I love you." These are two different words. Peter does not respond to him with the same word that Christ uses.
Right.
Christ uses agape, and Peter uses philia. I think. Remember from a Greek.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't use, and he says it. He asks him again, "Do you love me?" And he says, "Yes, I love you." But again, it's a different word. He asks him 3 times, and eventually Peter starts crying.
Yeah.
Because he can't love Christ the same way that he loves him. And there is an imbalance. There has to be an imbalance because what Christ is talking about is from a holy perspective, right? This is a divine love. This is an overflowing of love, the love that goes from one to another, a virtuous version of the thing that sits in between Nikki, Ian, Sarah, and Bear. It's an inversion of that, what Christ talks about. It's an overflowing of love that helps everybody, that binds everybody together in love.
Yeah.
And Peter cannot respond to him in the same way. There is an imbalance. I think that's a dark, or that's a light reflection of the dark version of love that goes on between those 4.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great point because like we use that kind of symbolism of like sexual union, not necessarily sexual, but kind of, like because we use the bridegroom and the bride
Yes,
symbolism,
that's right.
language. So like Christ is the bridegroom,
Yeah,
and the church, the body of the church is the bride.
yeah,
With that being the case, we are cheating all the time.
yeah,
We're unfaithful all the time.
yeah.
But he is always faithful, and he
Patient.
has this boundless agape love, which is overflowing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's there constantly as long
Yeah.
as we can,
Patient,
turn to it.
kind,
Yeah, exactly.
never fails.
Yeah.
Eternal,
Mm.
and it can't be conquered. But Peter can't do that,
No.
and neither can the guys who are around this relationship. At no point is there a let's go and get married. At no point is there a let's go and have kids, let's raise a family. That's not involved in the conversation.
Right, exactly.
That's not that kind of love.
And I think another mistake that the bear makes is that, like, objectively, he's got kind of a dreadful life, right?
Yeah,
so he goes to work.
He's goblin maxing.
Exactly. Yeah. He goes to work. He goes home. He's on his own in his grandma's house.
Yeah.
That he's not made his own.
Like mum's basement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's self-medicating.
Yeah.
He believes if only Nikki would love me, everything would turn around.
Yeah.
My life would not be great. Mistake.
Yep.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Build the life.
Right.
Build the life that you would want to have.
Yeah.
And then invite her into it.
And again, it comes back to responsibility. That's his responsibility to do that.
Exactly.
So just bringing somebody into that, and then unnaturally, because that again, you can read into that word whatever you like, and I think it has been read, maybe arguably it's been read into by certain spheres of the internet about that, but it's an unnatural form of love that Nikki has for Bear.
Yeah.
But also, it's kind of a bit of an unnatural love that Bear has for Nikki. It's not like I said, it's not a, I want it to be the mother of my children.
No.
I see virtue in her that like he's kind of put her on a pedestal, but like it's not a pedestal to say like she's going to make a great mum. I want to be with her all the time and raise kids. I want a family. I want to build a church at home with her. Even if that's an unspoken, unwritten thing, even if it's just like I want to be married to her and I want her for the rest of my life, and that's not in his thinking.
No.
Or if it is, it's not. That's not explicitly shown in the film.
No. No. I think that's a good point. And but yeah, it's a mistake of his to think it's the same mistake that people make when their life's in a bit of a rut and they think I'll go traveling for a while.
Yeah.
And that'll sort everything out.
Yeah.
But you're gonna take the same mind, the same emotion, the same thought process that you have to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
So you have to. You can't expect that you're just gonna bring somebody into this.
Yeah.
And everything's gonna turn around.
Yeah. Right. And that in essence, what Bear loves is an archetype.
Yeah.
And that's really what he's looking for, is an archetype of not even a spouse, a partner, a girlfriend,
Yeah.
a chick. So it's a bit of it's a model. He's built this mental model of or this emotional model of what he thinks is going to be his relationship. And for the first couple of weeks, he's really pleased with what he's got.
Yeah.
It's only when he realizes this is not sustainable. It's unfulfilling. It's unproductive. There's nothing good coming out of this relationship between us. So, and you mentioned about Jung a little bit. But it's maybe kind of worth touching a little bit on the archetypes going on at play here.
Well, in Jungian language, it would be the anima.
Yeah.
This idea that a man has of a woman, this kind of, like idealized platonic form of a woman.
Yeah.
That you place on, like you project it on, like she's a screen.
Yeah.
That you project onto her. And, I think everyone does this to a certain degree, but what determines the longevity, the strength, and the virtue of a romantic relationship between a man and a woman is how you deal with it when the image starts to fail.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like when you start to be like, oh, she kind of does that weird thing when she,
Yeah.
you know,
A little girl voice. Yeah.
Tantrums. Yeah. She did that thing again, and it's just like, oh, and these little things where reality seeps through the cracks, but that's where the agape comes in. That's where, because eros, I think, is it's an involuntary response to a large degree, but I believe agape is subject to will,
right,
to a certain degree, right?
Yeah,
it's like she is annoying out of me right now, but
we've got to look through it.
Yeah.
That for all her faults, this is what I've asked for. This is what we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, she'll be doing the same for you.
Right.
Ideally.
Right.
In a healthy, loving.
Like with like the relationship between Christ as the bridegroom and the church as the bride. Like, we're a bunch of goofballs.
Right.
We're unfaithful.
Right.
We come back to it a little bit from what you said, but that he overlooks that. He meets us where we are.
That relationship is uniquely one-sided.
Yeah.
Because no one is.
Because we can't.
Right.
If Peter couldn't, it was the greatest of his disciples. How are we going to improve on that?
Right.
We can't.
No.
And it was only when, and that was the kind of the lesson that Christ was teaching him there, was that he was, even though he was telling him that he loves him, that he says it 3 times, so I love you, but he used a particular type of, if you love me, you'll do this, feed my sheep.
Yeah.
Right. And so, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Or, but he can't express it the same way. He's teaching Peter then that this is an asymmetrical relationship. This is not equal footing. There is synergy.
Yeah.
There is synergy because we have to accept.
Right.
We have to accept the gift as it's given, but that it's asymmetrical synergy. We can't behave in the same way. We haven't got it within us to do the same thing.
No.
But within the confines of a marriage, you expect for there to be, there's going to be some. It's not equal. It's an unequal relationship.
Yeah.
But we kind of cover each other, and that we, in our own way, we give to the biggest extent that we can, and make sacrifices to do it.
Yeah.
For the other, which is why, particularly in the Orthodox Church, we get crowned when we get married as a symbol of martyrdom. These are crowns of martyrdom. So you have to cede away. And I think to some extent, he kind of tries that a little bit, does Bear. He kind of puts up with it a little bit. He makes excuses for her. He tries to kind of cover for her a little bit.
Yeah.
He kind of makes stories up a little bit about her. It's only when he realizes that that's not going to do it.
Right. It's not going to cut it.
It's not going to go.
Yeah.
It's not going to improve matters. That starts to break down. And so, what about sort of the ending then, bro? To kind of tie it together. We're looking at the very end. We've got the death of Bear. We've got the death of Ian. We've got the death of Sarah, and then in a way, we've got the death of, if you want to call it bad Nicky, right, or the obsessional Nicky. But what's Nicky got left? What fate does Nicky face now?
Right, I mean, it's not looking good, is it? Because she's
in a house full of bodies.
She's in a house full of bodies. She's murdered someone.
Yeah. She's
unquestionably murdered. Well, I mean, her physical person has murdered somebody.
Yeah.
So the DNA evidence is there.
It's all over it.
Yeah. There's Bear's body's there.
Yeah.
She's wearing Sarah's scalp, which isn't which isn't a good look.
Right.
Ian's house is full of untaxed $1 billion in cash. So it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. So that there's nihilism. Is it like just an obliteration?
Yeah.
That it ends up with just complete collapse in the relationship between them all, and then just nothingness in the end.
Well, I mean, it's like something you said to me on the night that we saw it. You were like, he's taken a shortcut. He's attempted to take it. Obviously, he didn't believe when he snapped the twig that it would actually work. But the fact is that he he wished that if he had it his way, that would have probably happened.
Yeah.
She would have come back and said, "Let's spend the night together."
Yeah.
He didn't think, "Dang, I better sort out this pill thing that's going on.
Yeah.
I better clean the house up.
Yeah.
I better
straighten up and fly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I better make myself a man
Yeah.
that if not Nikki is going to be interested in, then someone else that I meet will
Yeah.
be."
Yeah.
But he wants the shortcut. He doesn't want to put in the work that would make himself. So if you compare it to Aladdin,
Yeah.
the Disney
Yeah.
Aladdin, what does Aladdin do? Like, even the genie tells him, like, you can't do love wishes.
Yeah.
Can't do it. So Aladdin wishes to be like this prince. Now that turns out that doesn't work out either.
Work. Yeah.
But because the change has got to be authentic, it's got to be internal and authentic. But it's to do with shortcuts, and again, I'm kind of in this habit on this podcast of going Jordan Peterson said. But one of Jordan Peterson's rules was do what is meaningful and not what is expedient.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, the real treasure was the friendships we made along the way.
Yeah.
Right? And that's true.
Right.
That's a real thing.
Right.
Sometimes the journey itself is the gold that you were seeking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those moments of pain and feelings of inadequacy, that are these little deaths that slough off the I don't know, the parts that are holding you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can emerge again.
Yeah.
As the person that you wanted to be.
So I remember on the extras of the DVD Blu-ray for the film about Charles Bronson.
Oh yeah.
And Tom Hardy's talking about when he first rang Charlie Bronson up in the Nick, and he says to him, "Oh, how are you doing, Tom? You all right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, no, not really. No, like, I'm kind of going through a bit of a tough time at the moment. He's kind of being a bit of a fanny about it, really. He was kind of a bit whiny, talking to a guy who's like locked up for the rest of his natural life, he's never seen daylight, and he's going on about how tough his life is, right? And he says, but he listens to him. He's like, yeah. Tell me something now, Tom. Do you remember the floods? Some of the floods in the in Oxford. The little lad got trapped in it with his foot in a grate. Says, and the water was coming higher, and he drowned. Wouldn't happen to me. Do you know why? So when a fire brigade come around and say, see that foot? Cut it off. So you've got to cut a bit of yourself off in order to grow.
And I mean, that's biblical, because we see it, like Jesus says, like, if your eyes are causing you to sin, you pluck the eye out.
Yeah.
Or is it if your right hand's causing you to sin?
Both. Yeah, both. Yeah. So better to be blind.
Yeah.
But enter the kingdom of heaven than to see and to go down to hell. Or better to be maimed and lose your arm in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
But have your arms and go down to hell. But that ultimately they really kind of point to the same thing, which is that you can shortcut it. You can do what's easy. You can take the easy path, the broad path, right? But it's not going to work out.
No,
it's not going to work out. And the trouble is, like, all of those four pieces of those four moving parts of that machine, all to a greater or lesser extent took the easy path.
Yeah.
Ian took the easy path by just nailing Nikki on a casual basis, because he could have just as easily said, "Don't go near her, Bear. I'm trying to get with her. Like, me and her have got a bit of a thing. Like,
right.
Look, I know you've got feelings for her, but like, we're sort of seeing her." And he didn't say to Nikki, "Listen, Nikki, I want to make more of this. I think more of you than just a bit of a one night, a couple of, a bit of fun. Why, can we give it a shot?" Doesn't say that to her, does he? Sarah never says to Ian, to Bear, to start with, and she must have known for a long time. Look, they're a
of course,
thing.
yeah. She knew about it.
She's let it go on for years, right? Never said a thing to him, knowing that she actually really liked Bear and could have just nipped it in the bud like that. And Bear never says to Nikki, "I like you. Like, can we have a go?" All of them took the shortcut, and all of them end up to a greater or lesser extent in the same place.
So I think the ending is really a hyper dramatized way of saying that taking those shortcuts leads to ruin.
Right.
And it's a thing where what's the difference between prayer and magic? Because on the surface, like you say these words and you kind of expect or hope for this expectation. But
Yeah.
the difference, magic is about bending reality to your will, whereas prayer is about training your will to be obedient to the Lord's will.
Yeah. Nevertheless, thy will, not mine, be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it leads to ruin,
Yeah.
as we can see, because we don't know what we want. Like we don't know what we want. Bear thought that he wanted Nikki to be obsessed with him. Turned out it wasn't the what he thought it would be.
No.
So we don't know what we want. So that's what the difference is.
Yeah.
It's about training our will to be subservient to God's will rather than trying to impose our own broken desires onto reality.
Right, and expecting it to work.
Right, yeah.
And there'll be no consequences and everything's going to work out.
Right.
It isn't. So just to kind of take a step up from the story in the nitty-gritty, I wanted to kind of look at why this film has been so successful. What has struck a chord with people so much with this film that a $700,000 production has raked in $300 million? Why? And for me, comes back to something I just touched on at the start of the cast, which is that this is a tale, an old tale. This is not new.
Right.
Nothing in this film is groundbreaking or new or innovative. It's quite unusual in the sense that there isn't a bad guy in the film, which I mentioned before, but it's not a new thing. This is a story, a cautionary tale that to some extent will have been told in different guises.
Absolutely, yeah.
All the way through human civilization, pre-civilization. This would have been told around the fires while we were in caves and building our houses out of wattle and daub. This is in the same way that Beowulf. This is another guy who took shortcuts, talked a good story. That there are. This is interesting that they use the Hansel and Gretel theme a couple of times through the film.
Yeah.
That it's almost kind of got this fairy tale aspect.
Yeah.
That that something's going to go down. That something's going to be. And you mentioned it a little bit about the magic. It's completely unquestioned.
Yeah.
This thing just works.
It's not explained.
Yeah.
Like the film does not trip over itself.
Nope.
Talking about the mechanisms of the magic. And what's really funny, so it's got like an almost weird sci-fi Twilight Zone vibe where you've got this shop and it sells these like god tier power sticks that can rewrite reality.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the woman cashier that sells it to him is like very aloof, standoffish.
Yeah.
And when he goes back to the shop to buy more and to kind of complain, like the woman warned him he might.
Yeah.
There's a new cashier there.
Because others have done so.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's equally like sarcastic and standoffish. And even though Bear is like covered in blood head to toe, serious blood, he's like, whoa, what did you do?
Another one, is it?
Yeah. Like, yeah, it went wrong. Yeah, I get it. And he's like, you can't come in here with that energy, bro. Yeah.
You're weirding out my vibe, man.
Yeah, it's like no one's treating it like it's like that shop kind of is its own realm.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah. Bit of a meeting spot, and there was a couple of places like the meeting place of these different sort of storylines. It's all kind of based around the stuff that's in that shop. But also, I got that a little bit with the house. Is that's where they all kind of end up in the end. That it's like a kind of a meeting point, a little bit like Lost Highway.
Right.
At the very end, it's like it's like the meeting point of these stories. They all intersect, and it's like the singularity.
Right.
Where it all just seems to just completely drop to pieces.
Like when you watch the old Twilight Zones, like Rod Serling always did like the little voiceover.
Yeah.
And he would always end it with some variation of they're about to wander into the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
As if it's this kind of like non-time space
Yeah.
phenomenon that kind of seeps into reality at certain points,
Yeah.
and you kind of wander into it accidentally, and that seems to be what the shop is.
Yeah.
It's a really understated, weird vibe,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is really compelling.
It
I don't
is.
know.
But to kind of to sort of bring it back to it a little bit, in the sense that how relatable this story is.
Yeah.
But because of it, there's just an underlying fundamental story that's being told that we all kind of get. But that this story is well told.
Yeah.
It's well executed.
Extremely well acted, yeah.
Very, very, very good performances. From not just India Navarrete, who does just blow it to pieces, right? But like all the supporting cast, I thought put a really good shift in. The guy who plays Bear, I thought did a really good job. You know, he's very, very, very believable. Yeah. All four of those main sort of characters are very, very believable and credible. The lighting and the effects that they use, just around the lighting, is very clever. One little point where she says, "I've lost my crystal necklace," and the first time she turns up and opens the door, her eyes are twinkling, and she's got the crystal necklace on, and the crystal necklace is kind of twinkling as well a little bit.
Yeah,
I picked up on that really cleverly.
So that scene, it's the first day after the wish has been made.
That's right.
They go to work and she's staring at him the whole
shift.
Yeah. Then weirdly, she decides to go home with Ian.
Yes.
Rather than Bear. But she shows up at his house that night and she's on the porch and she's completely in shadow. You can barely make out the features of her face, but the eyes are gleaming.
They are.
And you can see
it's off.
Yeah.
It's off.
She's smiling and it looks... It's got like an air of sexuality to it.
Yeah.
But
wrong.
Yeah.
There's a wrongness about it.
And the gleam in the eyes.
Yeah.
Is...
So all of these little sort of methods that they've used to carry the story, carry the they say, show don't tell. There's an awful lot of that goes on. I thought to say that this is his first. It's not his first go at making sort of short films. Well, this is his first one where he's actually made it out to cinemas, I think.
Yeah.
And,
so just as an aside, you can go and watch on YouTube. He has got it's about an hour-long found footage style film called Milk and Cereal. Cereal as in series cereal.
Oh, okay.
And I watched it the other night, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It struck me a little bit. So it's not like brand spanking new. So I don't know if you ever watched the film VHS.
Very American.
Yeah, so that's all like kind of found footage. It kind of hopped off the back of the Blair Witch kind of stuff. It was later than that. I think it was sort of early noughties. I think it might have just been late 90s. And that was there's a the first story that gets to it's like a portmanteau with like lots of different stories that have kind of got an overarching story. But again, like an old like horror trope. That's what used to use in like the Hammer things. They were always kind of like three stories that were connected.
Right.
Hammer House of Horrors.
Yeah.
And that the first one of that is this succubus kind of latches onto these three bros are going out getting tanked, doing some Colombian marching powder and getting a bit wild.
Yeah.
And they take these girls back to the hotel room, and one of them like the shoes are off and like claws, but they're all too loaded to realise that the only one that is like clued up enough to realise is the guy who's kind of filming it all with these glasses that have got a video camera and these spy glasses. And
that was what's the word?
Prescient.
Yeah.
And all she says to him is like, "I like you. I like you." And her look is really off, and the way she behaves is really off. And he rejects her in the end, and she kind of carries him off. It's weird, but it's actually quite well done. But so again, it comes back to it. It's not a new thing. What they're doing in Obsession isn't new, but yet it's so well executed. It's so well told. It's so well produced and well acted that although there's not really kind of any innovation or anything that's particularly groundbreaking, man, it's captivating. You can't take your eyes off the screen. At no point I couldn't tell you now what the runtime of the film is.
No.
I've got no idea. At no point did I feel like, it kind of needs to be jogged on a bit here. At no point do I think like, it's getting a bit over the top.
It was tight.
It was very, very tight, very well paced. So this deserves to be, looked on as a future great.
Yeah, and I think it absolutely will be, and
Yeah.
it's getting the attention that it deserves for sure. And I know that he's already working on his next thing. Backrooms is out, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hopeful that this is going to be a turning point in not just horror, but I love horror. I love horror films. But I'm hoping that it'll be like a turning point for like filmmaking in general.
Yeah.
We need to get away from the slop.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of slop that's been out for a long time.
So I remember years ago when I was at uni and when we were doing production, but this was a composition module that I was doing, and our composition lecturer he'd done sort of stuff for TV, he'd done stuff for film. He was quite well, I won't go to say it wasn't a household name or anything, but he'd made a decent living out of it. A guy called Steve Kilpatrick, and he was a brilliant lecturer and a really good composer, and has made a good living out of it. He packed in lecturer and he just went over to Hungary, I think, for a little while. His missus was Hungarian, and then went to France and just does it full time now. But he always used to say that when he was talking to us about rules, that there are rules, like the rules of a horror film, there are rules with composition. Here is the way that traditionally music has been composed. There are structures and form, and you have to do things, and you have to know them to be able to break them.
Of course, yeah.
But having the rules in place, the constraints, maybe constraints is a better word. Constraints are a creative benefit.
Yeah, of course.
Because they force you to think
Yeah.
on how to break them. How can I make the best thing I possibly can using this set of rules or guidelines? Well, it's not really working like that. It's not doing what I want it to do. This is what Stravinsky did. So he looked at the composition for like the Rite of Spring. There were riots when he performed that in Paris. Because he said, it's abominable. You're doing everything against composition. Guys were fighting and there were riots outside where they were performing it. And that was all spawned because he was working within these constraints, but it sparked his creativity. Well, how do we get out of that? So conversely, by having little money to work with, has forced Barker to make something which is immensely creative and really, I guess you could say, counterculture, because the prevalent culture at the moment is slop.
Yeah.
Big money, big production, big names, big marketing, big cinema runs, big losses.
Yeah.
This is everything. It's the antithesis of that. Low money, low budget, good story, tight story, unknown actors.
Yeah.
Creative use of light, and all the basics that have been brilliant basics, as it gets touted about, some of the business circles, right? Sort of doing brilliant basics. But like this is a great example of it: lighting, costume, set design, the things that we've all taken for granted for a long time, a decade or more, maybe 20 years, is now starting to be looked at as, well, these are creative. There are creative opportunities. And not having the money has given him that ability to use those things creatively. Yeah. And so the antithesis is there are no big losses for this film. It's take. Yeah. They are raking it in.
Yeah, 300 mil at last count.
Yeah. Fair play to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I really do hope it spawns a bit of a revival.
Yeah.
I think horror lends itself well because it's kind of niche. It's always kind of been its own thing. And it plays by its own rules.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why this wouldn't work for all sorts of different stories.
And I think like horror in particular, what's always been unique about horror and maybe has changed in the last few years is that they've always been morality tales.
Yeah.
And this is a new morality tale.
It is. Yeah, it is. But not a new, like, morality is not new.
No.
Which is why it's so immensely relatable.
Yeah.
We get it. It subconsciously we can relate to it very easily.
Yeah.
This is, you're saying about all the little girl voice, we've all kind of been there. I'm sure that she'll be on the other foot as well, saying, the guys have just, been friend zoned and they've acted really weird.
Yeah.
There is nothing new about this. But that's no reason that you can't make a story around something like that and it not be creative. There's no reason they can't make a creative version of that. Could it work for docu-films? Maybe. Could it work for comedies? Maybe. Remember, like all the Shane Meadows films that he did before Dead Man's Shoes, before This Is England. All the films that he made weren't sort of massive budget, but he made films that were really funny, like on not a lot of money. I remember like Once Upon a Time in the Midlands, all set around Nottinghamshire, and it was like a western. It like the way that he shot it was like a western. So it was like the bit at the end where he's confronting the bad guy, like it's over the hip, but he's holding like he has like a drill, because he's a mechanic. So like, and it's there's a whole series of like funny subplots that go through it. No money. No money, like really basic sets, streets round Arnold and Beeston, right, and Huthwaite.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
Yeah. And funny you say that, but Courtney Barker and the actor who played Ian, actually I think it was Connor Tomlinson, Tomlinson, they did, prior to this, YouTube comedy sketches.
Right.
And the Philippou brothers, who did Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, like a comedy kind of YouTube channel.
Yeah. So
it just seemed that like comedy and horror seem to have like a weird, and I think the thing about this film is that, like when you have a horror comedy, the horror kind of takes second fiddle in a big way to the comedy.
Yeah.
But something about this film managed to do horror and comedy on equal footing.
Yeah, it did, because there are bits of it like you do find yourself laughing. Yeah, and it's not really kind of set as like explicit comic relief, but it does sort of have that effect a little bit.
And I think it's something to do with both horror and comedy have this structure where you set up a situation of tension and then there's a release.
Yeah.
So there's the feed and the punchline in comedy, and it's the same with horror. It's like you build a tension, then you release it with the scare.
There's like a cadence to it.
Yeah.
I remember this film, Cachet, Hidden. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Was that
the chick out of Chocolat's in it?
Was that the guy who did Funny Games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Michael Haneke.
Yes. He's French. And he's Austrian, but the.
I haven't seen it, but I began to watch it, and for whatever reason, I didn't finish it. But I've heard it's good.
It's great, and there are two, so you could describe it almost as a horror film, in a way, because of these two events that happen. One of them is somebody telling a joke, and the other one is somebody who does an unspeakable act at the very end.
Interesting.
And the rest of the film, if you kind of look at it as like sort of pacing and energy, if you like, it's on a very, very low, slow, typical European film. It's static shots, one talk, dialogue shots of one talking to another, a little bit like this. And then there are two scenes that just rip it to pieces.
Okay.
But, quite a cleverly made film. It can be a bit boring at times. It's not a boring movie, but very slow paced. But he played with this idea of how much tension can we build before the release.
Right.
And the first one, the release is the comedy, and at the very end, the release is the horror.
Right. That's interesting.
And it was cool. Yeah, it was good. So again, I don't think it was a massive budget. I mean, it's probably bigger than what Barker will have forked out for making Obsession, but that it can be made on a relatively low budget. It can be scaled down and still work.
Yeah.
And market players in talks to doing more stuff. So my hope is that they keep the money tight, keep the budgets tight.
Yeah.
Pay some big actors if you want, but is it going to add anything?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
And I think that Obsession did benefit from these at the time unknown actors.
Yeah.
It benefited from
definitely,
that in a big way.
Definitely. Because you don't see, it's Brad Pitt playing this role, or it's not Angelina playing this particular role.
Yeah.
It's you just see the roles. You just see the characters.
Yeah, and it's an extremely character-driven film.
Yeah.
It's not a plot-driven film,
Right.
because the plot is quite bare bones. It's like
Another reason why it's relatable.
Yeah.
Relating to people,
exactly.
not superheroes. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, Supergirl's about to launch. It's gonna bomb.
Mm.
I can't remember the other one that's coming out. I know Toy Story 5's coming out, and it'll make money. Well, will it make money? That's a question. But it'll certainly, there'll be a big take.
Yeah.
But they'll spend a lot of money to make it.
Of course.
But is it going to be is Toy Story 5 going to be talked about in the same way in 40 years' time as Obsession is? I doubt it.
No.
I doubt it. Good time. It was timely as well. In fact, things just kind of, kairos a little bit. They happen at the right time. This felt like it kind of captured the moment nicely for people.
It really did, yeah.
It's broken some of that malaise. It's breaking of the stick. Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
So I really hope it does, because I'd love to do another one of these, a real deep dive into another one. Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So excellent. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, same.
And we have finished Dune.
We have.
So that kind of was on schedule for the next thing.
Yeah.
We saw
we've
this.
We've had to park that for
So
now.
yeah. We will get to that. So that's going to be a future thing.
Maybe the July one.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this, because since I've seen it, I've had like a lot of thoughts going around in my head, and it's nice to just verbalize them, have a discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, have we got any new...
We haven't. So it's just been me and you and Edgar. So thanks for those who have joined us. Stay quiet on the chat, but drop your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear out what you're